Hi, friends. So today I thought we could talk a little bit about freedom. That's a word that's going around a lot today, right? On news media outlets, on social platforms, a lot of people talking about freedom, what freedom is and what freedom isn't. And my freedoms are being trampled upon, or I have a right to do this or a right to do that. Freedom. What is freedom? I mean, like at its fundamental, at its baseline, at its foundation, what is freedom? There's all kinds of ideas about what freedom is. Here's one. Freedom is the ability to do whatever I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, with whom I want to do it, and why I want to do it, and so on. That's a very real definition in today's secular culture about what freedom is. Freedom is my ability to do whatever I want. And here's something that's attached to it. As long as it doesn't hurt anyone, right? And then we say all kinds of things around that about how it's not hurting anyone. It's just me. It's something privately that I'm doing. Okay, that's certainly a common definition. And we run with it. Here's a different definition. Freedom is the ability or the power, the gift to become the person that we were created to be. Because think about this. Did you create yourself? No, you didn't. And we could argue that our mother and father created us, and there's some truth to that, they, in an act of love, and they gave us their DNA, and, they created us. But that would be only if we're body, only if we're material. And you and I as Christians, we know we're different. We're more than that. We are mind, consciousness. We are body, and we are soul. Something that will live on forever. Someone who will live on forever. So it's not just our moms and dads who created us. No, the one who gave us a soul and who thought us into being, even the material comes ultimately from God. All the way back to the Big Bang and up to this day, all the material comes from God. The consciousness comes from God, and the soul comes from God. My point is this, that when God created you, me, us, He created us for a purpose. The person who creates for a purpose. And that's certainly true of God. And the purpose for which He created us was to become the person that He created us to be. And the person He created us to be was to be in relationship with Him. Here and now, where we have the freedom to choose Him, and forever based upon the here and now and how we choose Him or not choose Him. Ends up where we will be with Him or without Him for all of eternity. So let's back up again. Let's go back to freedom. Freedom, the biblical anthropology that defines freedom, is the gift that God gives us and the power, the grace that God gives us to become the person that God intended us to be. That's freedom. And it trumps every other form of freedom that we've come up with, often on our own, separate from God, in competition with that main definition of what freedom is. Now, let's go with that for a moment, but let's do that in an upside down way in order to draw this out. Let's look at it through addiction, because we all would argue, and I think argue that when a person is addicted, truly addicted to something, their freedom is diminished or completely eradicated. It's taken away. The classic example would be like your classic alcoholic or somebody who is hooked on drugs, like something terrible like heroin. But the same could be if our addiction is porn, if our addiction is overeating, if our addiction is our handheld devices or our entertainments, like video games or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we're getting addicted to today, right? But you maybe think of things that you're struggling with in a disordered way, in an attached way, or somebody that or whose lives have been destroyed by addictions. And in the beginning, we wanted that drug, we wanted that alcohol, we wanted that diversion, we wanted that power, that position, that job, that money that went along with it. We wanted, the other definition, freedom, to go after what I wanted to go after, how I wanted to go after it, when I wanted to go after it, without any restrictions, without anyone telling me this is not good for me. I'm going after that. I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and so on, right? The other definition. And look at what addiction does when we pursue freedom in that way. Because what we're pursuing, we're pursuing happiness, right? But it doesn't give us the happiness. We end up not becoming, not just what God intended us to be, we end up becoming not what we wanted to be. I mean, what addict have you met who says, this is what I wanted of my life? This is what I dreamt for. And this is what I worked for. And this is what I sacrificed for. And what addict have you met who says, this is what makes me happy? Or what addict have you met who said, this is what God intended me to be? None of that, right? And so when we follow freedom in this upside down way, this disordered way, a redefined freedom according to secular values, it betrays the folly of that definition. So now let's look at the true definition. Freedom is a gift that God gives to us so that we become, and we use that freedom, we become the person that God intended us to be. And here's the kicker also. We also, when we become the person God intended us to be, we find the happiness that we always want for ourselves and for other people. So I'll use the example of a musician. Let's just say a piano player. Now, many of you know Matt Munhall, who is our director for music and liturgy at our parish. And you know that he's a very gifted musician. He plays the organ, he plays the piano, he plays guitar, and he can lead other people and teach them how to be musicians and how to do ensembles and choirs and bands and so on. He's an awesome musician. Now, if you put he and I together on a piano, and I ask you this question, which of us is more free to play that piano? Now, you could argue for a moment that, well, both people are free to play the piano. And there's truth to that, okay? Both of us could sit down and play the piano. But when I play the piano, I'm not making beautiful music with my life. I don't know how to play the piano. I don't know the rules to, there's an order to music, right? There's a math to it. There's an order to it. There's rules. There is practice. There's discipline. It's a way of life, right? That has structure to it. There's music that other people have written, and so on, if you just follow that metaphor. I don't know any of that. I don't have access to any of that, let alone the natural gift. So when I sit down to play the piano, people run away from me. Okay? And what I'm producing is not just not beautiful to me, and it doesn't make me happy, and it doesn't bring me joy, but it doesn't bring happiness and joy to everybody else, right? Okay. So yes, I do have freedom in the sense that I want to sit down and play music, but I have done nothing with, first of all, the gift, to develop the gift, let alone learn how to read music and know the rules and the order of music. And therefore, what I produce with my life doesn't satisfy me and doesn't satisfy everybody else. But now, enter in Matt Munhall, who has spent his life being trained by other people, how to play the piano, for instance. He learned how to read music. He listened to others play music. He can pick up a sheet of music, sit down, do it a couple times, and then he's got it mastered. He knows how to work with other people. He knows the rules and the regulation and the structure and the flow and the harmony and all those parts and qualities, the structures that go into a person's ability to be able to play a piano. And here's the thing, to make a living out of it, to make one's life satisfied and fulfilled, to bring beauty and joy to one's life, and to bring joy and beauty to many other people's lives, and to inspire other people. Like, Matt plays sacred music, and so he leads people in worship of God. He has used his freedom to become the person that God meant him to be. And the person God meant him to be, he meant him to be a musician, and through music, not only to bring happiness to his life and to care for him and his son, but also to bring happiness and joy to other people's lives, and not just that, to lead other people to God too. Freedom is the gift that God gives, and the power and the grace that God gives to help us to become the persons that we were meant to be. And along the way then, we also find happiness and joy and purpose and meaning, and we give that to other people. And if we're truly becoming the persons that God meant us to be, which is to be in relationship with him, no matter what we do with our lives, then we also draw other people to God too. And that's the Christian life, my friends, right? The Christian life is accepting in this world what freedom is and isn't. It is not the unrestricted ability, right, to do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, with whom I want, and so on. That is not freedom. That is a lie. And it often ends in taking our freedom away. And it often ends in taking us away from the true definition of freedom, God's definition of freedom, our Creator definition of freedom, the one who created us and defined what freedom was when he gave us freedom. And when we live out our Creator's definition of freedom, when we live out the Christian life, as Christians, live out God's definition for freedom, then here's what it looks like. We have order in our lives. We have teachers in our lives. We have the sheet music. We have the scriptures that God has written, the catechism, the writings of the saints, the spiritual lives that have been written across humanity. We listen to them. We learn from them. Their music, their harmony, their order, their purpose, their beauty. We gather as a community of believers in a church, and we have a structure, we have rules and regulations about how to live our lives. And these rules and regulations are not to restrict our freedoms or to take away our joy and our happiness, When we follow them, they bring happiness to us. They bring right order. They teach us who we are and meant to be. And they set a lifestyle and a path for us, a way to live our lives so that we do become the persons God that created us to be. Not just as a human race in general, but you specifically, me specifically. And when we become these musicians, if you will, who take the gifts that God has given us, the many gifts that God has given us, and we start to play the music God meant us to play, and we practice it, and we take on that discipline, then we create indeed beautiful music with our lives. And in such a way that it provides for us. It gives us happiness and purpose and satisfaction and fulfillment. It also provides for other people's lives, and it inspires and draws other people to worship God because we exist. And because we're in relationship with God. And because we're living our lives in such a way that God created us to live our lives. And then our lives not only draw us closer to God, but draw so many other people to God because of the beauty that we produce with the music that we have chosen and the freedom that God has given us to become the persons He meant us to be, and help us to do this over and over in the lives of others. What we receive, what we've been taught, what we live, what we practice, we pass on to everybody else. And then they inspire us. And then they play their music, and they provide, and they lead others. My friends, what I've just described to you is a church, is a parish church, is a community of believers, is a family, all who get it. We didn't create ourselves as moms and dads and brothers and sisters and children and priests and so on. There's somebody else who created us. And we're gathering together to figure that out and to live that out. And then to go out of our church into the world and to teach others what true freedom is. Let's do that. Let's do that as we return now to church. Let's return to church for this reason, so that we might learn and relearn and then live out the freedom that God gave us to become who He meant us to be, both here and now, and forever happy with Him in the life of heaven. Until next time, friends.